Rod, why is hip-hop purification important, man?
Hip-hop purification is important because it will not only bring light to all my women of color who don't understand why they're being targeted for extermination, why they're being terminated and targeted for femicide. It's not important to me only because it will reveal those truths, but it will not only reveal those truths where they come from, it will then also become the vessel to undo them. See, what happened was the woman of color was made to become the public enemy #1 by white men who created an initiative to go to Africa and steal everything from them, including their humanity. So hip-hop purification is so important because this social invention, this social norm, or this cultural idea to go after the black woman specifically, to make her look like a savage beast, to make her look like a primitive dog or anything less than human,
And to sexualize her, right?
To sexualize her, where now she's to be raped, she's to be dehumanized, she's to be, listen to this, she's to be observed for scientific inquiry. So this destruction of the African American woman is something that scientists got together after the Berlin Conference and came up with, and then introduced it to the men of color through hip-hop. The men of color didn't know to treat a black woman the way we're treating her. It was introduced to us through hip-hop. The attitude towards the African American woman was created at the Berlin Conference. So if hip-hop gets purified, not only will black women uncover why they're being targeted, where it came from, they'll also find out that there was no basis or proof or legitimacy to treat her in such this way.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to me.
Yeah.
Road to victory
Right.
is in a purified hip-hop form because it gives the African American woman a national identity, and then she has what we call protection. She's the one thing that has no protections anywhere. Hip-hop purification will allow the African American woman in the United States, or the black woman in the United States, to develop not just a national identity and pride, but it will give her protection. Because the one thing that should be protecting her is the one thing that's destroying her, which is the black man, the African American man. They learned that culture in hip-hop. They learned those practices in hip-hop. Now, how did those practices get introduced into hip-hop?
Yeah.
Through indirect rule from the Berlin Conference. This is a perpetuated belief, social norms.
From all the way 200 years ago.
Since 1800, things like 1884 to 1885 is when they got together and came up with the legislation for it.
Yeah.
Right, 1884, 1885. And the legislation created a demand to perpetuate the physical beauty of a black woman as inhumane, as savage, and definitely needed to be dissected and investigated. They took a beautiful black woman who has such the physique, typical to a Coke bottle, and they took her to London and European nations and British nations, and they paraded her as a freak show so that all the white women and white people could come and see, this is what's a monster. They took the woman, took her all around and toured and said, she's a monster, look, she's a monster. And they were using the fact that her breasts were better developed, her legs were better developed, her backside was better developed. And because it was something that looked like an angel from heaven, instead of the Europeans embracing it, they took the fear and the intimidation, because they do not look that way, as the basis to say they're so different, they're not human. You mean her beauty was godlike, her beauty was angelic. So instead of seeing it that way, they flipped the words without any proof, without any scientific backing, and said, no, this woman, the black woman, is a savage beast, and anything that she has or creates is ours for the taking and stealing. That's the social report that came out of it. That's why it's important to me, because it will protect the woman of color. It will unite the woman of color and her people, and it will create a tool of success and opportunity for all people of color if we purify hip-hop.